Good morning and welcome to Miss Paula's Place. And I'm so glad that you're here this morning. I have a couple things to talk to you about before we begin our story today. Miss Paula has been doing this since we were in quarantine. And today is going to be the last time that you will see Miss Paula's Place posted on Friday. Pretty soon, our education ministry at our church at First Lutheran in Muskegon, Michigan, will be starting faith formation classes. It's like a Sunday school. And you will hear Miss Paula read from the book I'm reading from today. And your parents and your grandmas and grandpas or anyone who would like to join us for our stories each week will be able to get those stories from our website, firstlutheranmuskegon.org, and we will have them posted in our worship area on our Facebook page. So I am hoping that you will join us for our faith formation classes as we begin with those that are in preschool and kindergarten, all the way, probably some adult classes too at some point. And we will have them for all ages. And we used to call it Sunday school, and we may do that again. But for right now, while we see each other virtually, we are going to call them our faith formation classes because we are all forming our faith. We don't just stop when we get to be 10 or 12 or 50 or 90. We are always growing in our faith. And so I do hope that you will join me each weekend for a new story from one of my, yes, here we go again, one of my favorite books. It is the Bible. And our faith formation classes will have stories from this particular translation of our Bible. It's called Spark Story Bible. And this one is actually new for Miss Paula. Her kids had a little bit different version of story Bibles as they grew through the different years. So this will be the one that we'll be using at First Lutheran Muskegon for our faith formation classes. And each one of your families will make sure that you have one of these Bibles so that you can follow along with Miss Paula and Miss Susan and lots of other special guests each week during our classes. So today, friends, I have chosen one of my favorite stories. And I don't have a bowl of fruit with me right now, but it is called Fruit of the Spirit. Fruit of the Spirit. So we are going to read one of the stories out of the Bible. And this particular story is found in the New Testament of our Bibles, and it is called The Fruit of the Spirit. Let's get started, everyone. This Paula is showing you the pictures, and they're kind of characters that have been drawn, and the people in this picture do not look real happy. They look like they're shouting at each other. Well, let's find out what the fruit of the Spirit might do for them. Let's go. Paul helped people understand how to live the way God wanted them to live. One time, Paul wrote a letter to a group of people called the Galatians. The Galatians had a new church, and they needed lots of help. One of the problems they had was that they were always arguing. You know, friends, this does happen in churches, and it happens a lot of places. And I know most of us have experienced arguing in our homes sometimes, even though we are not real happy about it and we don't like it, but it does happen. And in our schools sometimes, in our communities, we do argue. And so the Apostle Paul is talking about what this is like when people argue. The people in this story fought and fought about all sorts of things. The Galatians didn't always agree about what it meant to be a church and what rules to follow. They had a hard time getting along, and it was getting in the way of them making a good church and being good friends. Paul wrote a letter to these people, the Galatians, to tell them to stop fighting. He had some great advice. Here we go. To the Galatians, the letter said, I am happy that you believe in Jesus, but all your fighting is getting in the way. You're not living the way the Holy Spirit tells you to live. I have a suggestion for you to try. Instead of living like you are, live with the fruit of the Spirit in mind. Show love, joy, peace, and patience to one another. Be kind and generous and faithful. And remember, be gentle with one another and always show good self-control. Live with the fruit of the Spirit in mind. That's the way the Holy Spirit and God want you to live. Wow, that's quite a list of things. Joy, peace, patience, kindness, love, generous, faithfulness. That's a lot. That's a long list. But evidently, it is a very important list for us to listen to and to use in order for us to get along. The Galatians looked at each other. They were very quiet. Paul was right. They weren't living the way the Holy Spirit wanted them to. What were they thinking? All this fighting was just not right. At the end of his letter, Paul wrote, the way for you to get along and be a church and a community is to let God's love fill you. May the grace of God be with you all, said Paul. And that's how he ended his letter. So each day, the Galatians tried to remember the words of Paul's letter. They said yes to peace and no to fighting. Yes to kindness and no to anger. Yes to being generous and no to being greedy. And little by little, the Galatians saw God's love and showed it to others. They felt loved by God, and they loved each other. Their faces look a lot different than they did at the very beginning of the story, don't they? They do. You know, friends, when I practice the fruits of the Spirit, when I think about love and kindness and faithfulness and joy and peace and stop arguing, boy, it's so much more fun to live that way. And I know that sometimes we do find ourselves in those kind of situations. But I hope and pray that you remember the story in this Bible, because it is a story that helps us live into all that God has in store for us. So I hope and pray that you have a remarkable start to your school year. I know it looks different. And I know a lot of adults have argued and haven't shown a lot of kindness to each other sometimes lately. But that doesn't mean that we can't. That doesn't mean that you can show kindness in some way. It might have to be with your mask on. But you can still say a kind word, even if your mouth is covered with a mask. And you can still love somebody and give them a compliment and encourage them, even with a mask on. And I think we all need that kindness each and every day. So I do hope that you will join us for a new story each week from this Spark Bible. And I have enjoyed reading to you since March. I have shared a lot of my, favorite books because you know Miss Paula. She loves to read, and I love books of all kinds. And I especially like reading the Bible stories. So join us at First Lutheran for our faith formation classes. You will be getting some more information. Closer to the end of September, we'll begin our faith formation classes on the first weekend of October. If you have any questions, you may call the church at First Lutheran Muskegon and talk to me and ask me any questions you need to find out or whatever you need to know to join us in our faith formation classes. And with this, I say God's peace be with you. Be safe and love each day, living in the fruit of the Spirit. Goodbye.